The Lord is my shepherd. He goes before me. Defender behind me. I won't fear. I'm filled with anointing. My cup's overflowing. No weapon can harm me. I won't fear. Hallelujah. I am not alone. No, no, no. He's my comfort, always holds me close. He always guides me through mountains and valleys. His joy is refreshing, restores my soul. Mercy and goodness give me assurance that I'll see His glory. Face to face. Lift your voice and say, hallelujah, hallelujah. I am not alone. No, no, no. Somebody lift your voice, say, He's my comfort. He's my comfort. Always holds me close. Oh, hallelujah. I am not alone. No, no. He's my comfort, always holds me close. Your spirit lives within me, so I will walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory. Your spirit lives within me, so I will walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory. Your spirit lives within me, so I will walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory. Your spirit lives within me, so I will walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory, my victory, my victory, my victory, my victory. I win because you're my victory, my victory. Hallelujah. Is it your victory today? comfort always, always holds me close. Hallelujah, I am not alone. He's my comfort, always holds me close. Hallelujah, I am not alone. He's my comfort, always holds me close.
This is War Cry. We're on the wall crying out for our children, our communities, our schools, our churches, our families. This is War Cry. Welcome to our reality. Gun violence. Chicago, Philly, Detroit, New York, Atlanta, just to name a few. Our black children are dying day by day. This is War Cry. Police brutality. Hands up! Don't move. I can't breathe. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag All Lives Matter to Christ. This is War Cry. Drugs, rape, mass shooting, school violence. This is War Cry. Galvanizing people to pray for our children and to take action. Let's march on Washington. We want prayer back in school. This is War Cry. Cameras, memorials in every corner in our neighborhood. Who died this weekend? Oh no, not Miss Martha's grandson. This is War Cry. He was only 16. His brother died last year. He was only 13. This is War Cry. We the people. We're the elected officials. This is War Cry. We need the church. Where's the church? Only on Sundays. Get to the streets, church. We need you out there. This is War Cry. Girl, be gone. Boy, be gone. Mothers crying. Fathers being locked up. Welcome to our reality. Identity crisis. This is War Cry. Oh, they're trying to remove our history off the textbook. Oh, critical race theory? It makes them feel bad. It's our reality. Fake reality shows. We want the real truth. Stay woke. This is War Cry. HBCUs under attack. This is War Cry. Equal pay for what we do. We want a reparation. This is War Cry. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. No copyright infringement intended. All rights belong to their respective owners.
This is War Cry. We're on the wall crying out for our children, our communities, our schools, our churches, our families. This is War Cry. Welcome to our reality. Gun violence. Chicago, Philly, Detroit, New York, Atlanta, just to name a few. Our black children are dying day by day. This is War Cry. Police brutality. Hands up! Don't move. I can't breathe. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag All Lives Matter to Christ. This is War Cry. Drugs, rape, mass shooting, school violence. This is War Cry, galvanizing people to pray for our children and to take action. Let's march on Washington. We want prayer back in school. This is War Cry, candles, memorials in every corner in our neighborhood. Who died this weekend? Oh no, not Miss Martha's grandson. This is War Cry. He was only 16. His brother died last year. He was only 13. This is War Cry. We the people. We're the elected officials. This is War Cry. We need the church. Where's the church? Only on Sundays. Get to the streets, church. We need you out there. This is War Cry. Girl, be gone. Boy, be gone. Mothers crying. Fathers being locked up. Welcome to our reality. Identity crisis. This is War Cry. Oh, they're trying to remove our history off the textbook. Oh, critical race theory? It makes them feel bad. It's our reality. Fake reality shows. We want the real truth. Stay woke. This is War Cry. HBCUs under attack. This is War Cry. Equal pay for what we do. We want a reparation. This is War Cry. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Wait a minute. Is that somebody else they're burying that looks like us? Only 12. This is War Cry. Oh, let us come together and pray for our young people, pray for our communities, pray for our schools, pray for our churches, pray that the government gives us what we need, a fair opportunity. This is War Cry, home of the land, home of the brave, land of the free. Who's free? Our men are locked up. This is War Cry. Hashtag mothers against gang violence. Hashtag fathers who love their sons. Hashtag what would Jesus do? This is War Cry.
I know who goes before me. I know who stays behind. The God of Israel's army is always by my side.
This is War Cry, and welcome to another great broadcast. War Cry for our children, War Cry for our schools, War Cry for our communities, War Cry for our churches, War Cry to galvanize us all back together again and take it to the streets. We've got to do something. This is 2023. If it's going to be, it's going to be in 2023. Guess what? We're broadcasting all the way from New York. And guess what you can do to join in? You can share it with somebody. Now, I want to tell you something. We are not politically correct. We are an urban radio station, which simply means the people's voice matter. We, the people, matter. And we got another exciting show. You can hit us up on our website, War Cry for Our Children. You can contact us, warcry.children@gmail.com. We want you to get a shirt from us that says, I am praying for our children. Somebody needs to stand in the gap. It's too long that we've stood in the back. We've got to get in front. The enemy has strategized this plan for us, and his intent is to take us down. I want to tell you that. His intent is to take the church down, make the church powerless, take the people down, and guess what? To take over. Now, we know we won it at the cross. Did anyone tell the church we've already won the victory? This is War Cry. I see our guest is on, and I am so excited about our guest. This is War Cry. And I'm going to let our guests introduce themselves to you. I'm going to start off by saying, good morning, Danielle. Introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little something about what you do.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle Williams, and excuse me, I'm the coordinator of Connect Faith. And part of the Connect organization in New York. And so at Connect, we address the issue of domestic violence through education, through prevention. And we do this by through dialogues, conducting trainings, really working with community to address the underlying attitudes that contribute to various forms of intimate partner violence and transforming those attitudes so that we can get to peaceful communities and families.
Okay, I need to ask you a question. Do you think a lot of this domestic violence that's in our young people, because when we think of domestic violence, we always think of married couples or partners, but our young people that are in relationships too, they are mimicking something. I don't know where they're getting it from. Do you think it's based upon the trauma that has been passed down generational? Danielle.
I think it comes from a lot of things, yes. And, domestic violence, it happens in many forms. It can happen with married couples, it can happen with unmarried couples. It could happen with the same gender loving people. It could happen with, you have elder abuse, you have child abuse. There's so many ways. It's about people, a power and control over somebody else. And when you think about our entire broader community, this entire society is built upon domination. Power and control is how America operates. And so it comes from the broader social scale, the messages that you hear from our politicians at times, but it also comes from, yes, if people, if you witness the abuse that happens in families and in the communities, that can also be a contributor to it as well, in addition to the attitudes and ideas that we teach and push in our communities that people can take, at working with faith communities in particular. People will take a verse with good intentions and flip it to justify abuse. And so,
Mm.
we have to be mindful about what are we teaching, what are we preaching, what are some of the attitudes that we hold, like not believing women, not believing survivor. What are some of these attitudes that also contribute to the violence that we see in our communities?
Okay, let's go now to Dr. Payne. Dr. Payne, introduce yourself to our audience and tell a little something about you. I have you labeled as social activist. Is that true? Unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yes, I am very strong about it. Well, let me tell you about myself first. I'm a pastor for Old Mount Zion Baptist Church in Brooklyn, New York. I'm in a few organizations that are about to do things, not just to talk, but we're out to do things. A lot of organizations have the name, but they're not doing anything. We're out to do things. I'm with United Christian for Justice. That's number one. With the God Squad and the Clergy Council of New York City, 81st Clergy Council and 79th Clergy Council. And our job is to get to the young people and try to talk to them to change this community, trying to change this situation, trying to change everything around. It's up to us to do these changes. My motto is now from the seats to the streets. In other words, we're
Oh,
not going
hold
to
it
stay in
right
the
there.
building.
Hold it right there. I like that. Say that again. From the seats. And where are the seats at? Tell me, is the seat at my house? Where the seats at?
The seats is in the house of the Lord. The four walls,
Ooh.
sitting down every day. We got to take it to the street now. COVID was a perfect example of us taking it to the street. When the church was closed, how do we get the word out? You had to go out to the streets. You had to take it out. So what I'm saying, we're going to have to take this to the street. And with domestic violence and all this violence and everything, we have to start in the church. Train our young children, train our young people, and show them perfect examples. Once you do that, you're taking it to the street. It's time out for talking and all like that. Talk is cheap. We got to put some action to it right now.
Absolutely. We have two other hosts that will be coming on and joining us soon. But up until they come on, I want to say this. This system is broken that we're living in. It's broken. It's a broken system that we're in. So we want to talk today, and I'm going to be talking probably all week long on the Black agenda because Danielle and Dr. Payne, we all was at Al Sharpton's National Action Network. We all got our thoughts and ideas on the system, and we're going to talk about the Black agenda. In this country, was built on wealth. See, this entire country was built on wealth, and whose wealth was it attributed to? It definitely wasn't our wealth. It was built by us to make them rich, but we got none of it. See, it started when we had forced slavery. We had lynchings, discriminations, hate, rape, segregation, and purposeful division among the races. This was done on purpose, division among the races. It was purposeful division among the churches, our communities, and our schools by having unfair curriculums in our schools, not teaching us what should have been taught. If you put all this together, you know what you come up with? You come up with a prison system that put us in prison. And we don't talk about this system that put us in prison. Why? Why is it so much of a disproportional amount of our people in prisons right now? Based upon what I said, I'm going to give it to you, Dr. Payne. Why? What are your feelings on that?
Well, if you look at it, remember when we had Black Wall Street?
Yes.
Remember Black Wall Street? And so what happened is we as a people not only built this country, stop and think, but look how powerful we are. Even with all the slavery and everything, we still came out on top. And when you become a threat to someone, they're always going to try to stop you. If you notice, we had our own cleaners, our own laundry, our own bag. We had everything to us. We had it all, but they stopped it. And they want to put us back to that place again. What one person said, let's make America great again. When was it great? Understand what I'm saying?
Now, question, Dr. Payne, question. When we had all this stuff, you say they stopped us. Who is they?
Well, let's put it, the Caucasian. They got jealous. The people got jealous because we was producing. And even today, we are still producing. They try to stop us in everything, but we still come up on top. And whenever you come up to the top, you're going to have people that's always jealous of you. And I hate to say it, but when you look at 45, how he did, if you notice, race is coming back into society. It was always there. It was covered up, but now it's become more open and it's coming against us. Instead of building up schools, they're building more prisons. Instead of making after school programs and doing different things for our children, they're taking that away. The reason they're taking that away so that we don't have the funds, we don't get the education, we can't get the jobs. And so then we're going to try to kill each other. Black on black, genociding. All this stems from that. When you take away, we have to try to survive. And the young people today is killing one another, trying to get over. Society sees that. And this is one of the problems that we're having. But we as people got to work together, pull together. And the same way we put our things together. With Black Wall Street, what they did, they trust each other and they work together. We had business. We work together.
You said a key word, trust. Now there's so much mistrust in our community. There's so much mistrust in our churches. There's so much mistrust in the Bronx versus Brooklyn versus Queens versus Staten Island versus Manhattan versus New York versus Chicago. It's so much mistrust. But of all our cities, even the smaller ones, we've got something in common, and that's called Black violence. Danielle, at you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything said. And you know, we're in the year 2023. I think, you know, as we're moving forward, we know how they operate. We know how they function. And I think it's time for us as we go about with our building, keeping that in mind and navigating around that. I think we have when I look at the liberation of our people, I see it as two-pronged. One, we always have to address the system and the systemic changes. Like, you know, you mentioned mass incarceration. The new Jim Crow outlines that, right? There were bills that were passed. There were little tweaks in the system that ramped up the number of folks getting incarcerated and did it at unequal rates, where drugs that white folks use didn't put them in jail for the drugs that black folks, sold, right? And so and that has impacted us today. But we have to address these systematic situations, like they're taking the history out the school, our history out the schools. Okay, we got to fight that. The second prong is we walk and chew gum at the same time. We've always been able to do this, and we got to continue doing it. We got to build for ourselves. Okay, they're taking the history out the schools. We're going to fight that. But we also have our faith communities where education happens on throughout the entire week. That is an area where our faith communities can say, you might not get this in your school, but you will get it here. We have our community.
Absolutely. Let me just stop you right there. I want to say something. Absolutely. I want to put a period on there. Absolutely. Our urban churches need to step up. They're relying on the bigger churches to do the job, but the bigger churches are only cycling the saints that's in their churches. I'm not mad at you. That's what you're supposed to do, take care of your own. But it's time for the urban churches, the one that live next to some of the worst projects in the neighborhood. It's time for us to unite for the purpose of saving our kids. I mean, I can never understand this. A church that's only open on Sunday and the doors are shut 6 days out of the week, and you have poverty in the area, you have gangs in the area, you got teenagers that don't have a place to hang out except at the corner, but yet you shut the doors of the church down only on Sunday, and you complain nobody want to go in. I've been at churches and went in, and I said, well, why are you locking the door? Well, I'm locking the door because this is a bad neighborhood. Well, what are you doing in the neighborhood if it's that bad? You're supposed to do the purpose of God inside of the neighborhood. Back at you, Danielle. I just had to say that. And then on top of that, our young boys who are getting our young girls pregnant, they're beating them up and killing them. Back at you, Danielle.
Yes. And, so I think I've been in some meetings, when we talk about the distrust, right? The distrust. I've been in some meetings where you get a whole bunch of Black people together, and then we start talking about, okay, what resource do you have? What resource do you have? And then you start connecting the dots, and you're like, oh, wait, yeah, we can work around this systemic impediment with some of the resources that we have while we're fighting it at the same time. And so I think, when it comes to the community violence, when it comes to the domestic violence, there are things that we also have control over, that we can address. And yes,
now who's the we? Who's the we?
Black folk. Let's look at the example that you just said. Black femicide. Black femicide is a major issue. And it was especially during COVID, the numbers were astronomical. And so Black femicide, these are cases where Black women are killed, and most likely by those who say that they love them. And during COVID, the numbers were astronomical. I think it was every 6 or 7 hours, a Black woman was killed. And somebody, the sister, she runs a page called Black Femicide. She was looking at the newspaper articles and pulling it out and keeping track. And she calculated that every 6 or 7 hours. And people said, that's not true. That's not happening in our community. And then the FBI confirmed it. So, again, we have to get together and talk amongst each other about what is contributing to this. What are our ideas around women, around violence against women, around relationships, power and control that are contributing to this? And how can we transform that within our community? You know what I'm saying? Now,
absolutely.
There's a variety of systemic factors that play into this, but there are also things that we have the power to control and that we can address.
Absolutely. And when I'm going to let Dr. Wayne come in, but one of the things that that Hoover said, and we know that Hoover was a racist. Come on, we got to say it. And we know that he was in the background somewhere with some of our leaders, our Black leaders, was actually assassinated. And I don't want to say murdered. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. This is war cry. We're not politically correct, but we're Christ correct, and we're an urban station, and we're about the people. We're for the people and about the people. We're not what you're going to see on your regular shows. We're going to give you the hard truth, the hard facts. And if you don't like it, oh well, because somebody needs to pull up themselves and see what's going on in our community. We're the urban church. Why is it that the government makes all these laws and roll it down to us? We know what the Black agenda should be. We're living in here. We are preaching. We're seeing domestic violence. We're seeing our Black kids dying. We're seeing our Black men going to prison. We're seeing it. We're hearing it. So this is war cry. I'm going to get back to you, Dr. Payne, because I know you want to jump in.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's why I'm saying we have to take it to the streets. When you look at it, because we could prevent a lot of things, speaking to our young men. And we don't speak to our young men. All the young men out there is not bad. Stop and think.
Hold it, Dr. Payne. Dr. Payne. Dr. Payne, I got to come in with this.
Yes.
Where are the men in the church? see, where are the men? What's happening to the men in the church? We don't have the men in the church. Don't come out the church and do it. Now, I'm not saying you. Where are the Black men that's supposed to be mentoring the Black boys or the Black young men? Where are they? I'm looking for them.
They have forgotten their own manhood.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Dr. Gregory Johnson. Dr. Gregory Johnson, he just came on there. I'm going to let Dr. Payne finish, and Dr. Johnson will bring you in. Dr. Payne, where are the Black men? Then we'll let Dr. Johnson jump in.
Well, you know what? I blame that with the churches today, because we sit in our four corners instead of going out and bringing them and talking to them. It's our job to invite. Our job to invite. And if you invite someone, they will come. A lot of men don't come to church because it's religious or however. But you got to invite them. You got to throw out the net. You got to throw out that bait and draw them. A lot of times we don't do that, to go out, even to reach men on the corner, reach young boys in the street. We can do that if we speak to them. I'm trying to do that now. Speak to our young people, our young men, trying to work with them and bring them in. Once they come in, they may be able to.
Why don't you tell us right now some of the things you're doing in that area right now?
Oh, okay. Well, right now I got like a street ministry, whereas we going out witnessing to young men on the corners and everything. When I say witnessing to them, hey, yo, bro, you don't have to do the smoking and drinking. Why don't you come to church? We got a better life for you. You don't have to do all these different things. We go out and try to witness, not try to preach to them, but invite them and try to, reason with them. If you start doing things like that, these young men will come. Even if they call me OG, I'm just 65 years old, but they call me OG. And a lot of time when you speak to the young guys, they give you the respect. And sometimes these guys look at the elderly ladies and they, hi, moms, how you doing? Is everything okay? These young men, they have respect, but you just got to invite them. And yes, some young men will come. Not everyone's going to come, not everybody, but out of 10 of them, you may get one or two. And when you get that one or two, they can talk to their friend, because sheepy get sheep. Young people bring other young people. If you could get that one, they will start bringing more. But we got to make the initial move to try to get one. We're not even trying to get one.
Got to make it. Got to make it. We got to go beyond the walls. Beyond the wall. This is War Cry, and we're talking about the Black agenda from the urban area. Why should Washington be telling us what to do? They should be listening to us and giving us the money to do. We know the needs of our community. Now we have Dr. Johnson that have joined us. Dr. Johnson, would you like to step in and just talk to us a little bit about what you think should be on the Black agenda?
Well, from what I've seen now, what's going on now?
Introduce yourself, Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson, introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I would like to say that this is a much needed discussion, and I'm glad to be a part of it. But getting back to the Black agenda that we're discussing this morning, I think the most important aspect is the Black family as a whole needs to be incorporated. Not just the Black man and Black woman, but the Black children along with them. As a whole, we need to think like a village again. We need to think like our ancestors should do. We need to come together as a whole. And unfortunately, a lot of our black men that are going on now because of the social climate and the economics that's going on, a lot of them feel somewhat hopeless or uninvited in many cases when it comes to the church. And then a lot of them have been let down, and a lot of them have seen things that are not good to see. There's been a lot of hypocrisy. There's been a lot of dividing. There's been a lot of show and tell and no do. So it's going to take something for the black man to come to church today. You got to show him something. And he's most of all, you've got to let him know what his place is. His place is in leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, go back at you, Dr. Payne. I see you want to jump on that.
And I agree. Example, practice what you preach. That's the best example. That's why you want to see men to come to church, because a lot of times they think pastors are only after money, the cars and everything. They're looking at that, and that's what they believe. But you have to show them something different. You show them the love that you care. Remember when it was coming up, how the family used to be oriented, the family used to be pulled together. We all sit down and eat together. We don't have that no more. Stop and think.
No,
And I agree with my brother. It's the family. We got to
it's
teach
the
that in home
family.
and also the church.
It starts and stops with the family, and then it moves to the church. Danielle, we now, because of our dysfunctionality in the family, we have relied on the school to teach our children. You know, it's like, well, you spend 8 hours with a teacher, so the teacher should show you manners, tell you this, tell you that. We relied on them to teach our kids sex education, where the parents didn't discuss sex education. We relied on them to tell us about uh, um, different types of drugs instead of parents and stuff. And then the kids really now, when I was growing up, everybody wanted to be like their mama, a daddy, uncle, a cousin. Nobody wants to be like any of that. They want to be like heroes, either on these reality shows or a basketball celebrity or a football celebrity. They definitely don't want to be no pastor or no preacher. And they are mimicking what they're seeing. That's why you see so much violence in the church and outside the church with our young people. Danielle, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Sorry, I was so busy listening. I lost my track of mind. But you were saying about how it starts in the family and bringing the family together, and the church also living the example. Yeah, I think that's very, very key. Again, the messages that people hear are very, very important, and shape decisions that people make. And again, looking at what we have control over. I'll say this though. Sometimes I can imagine it might be challenging when parents are busy trying to provide for the home. And I can imagine also in single parent homes as well. So, babysitting and paying for a babysitter is astronomically high. So, yes, the school does play that role, and parents are working late. And so that could be a contributing factor. I also think, this is an area where we have control, because let's keep it real. Do our families like to talk about sex?
No,
Do our
No,
faith communities like to talk about sex?
no.
no.
So if young folks aren't getting the education from the parents, from the faith communities, I grew up in the church. I never had sex education at church.
Me
We never
neither.
talked about sex. Where did I get that from? My homies. And I can imagine, right? And your homies
Telling
got
the truth. She's
science, right?
telling the truth.
And the only things your homies want to do is for you not to be a virgin.
And now, my mother, she gave me a book. She gave me a book. It was like Birds in the Beach. She's like, all right, so go read this, and uh wait till marriage to have sex. That was my home sex education. And so so I think these issues are taboo. And I think it's also connected to some of the historical trauma that we faced. And I think these are areas for healing. And when I think about our faith communities, the beautiful role that we can play is creating the spaces for that healing, to say, like, this has been a trauma that we have experienced. Let's talk about it. Let's get to some healing. Okay, now here are some strategies that we can use to bring about transformation in this area. I think those are tools that we have. And, I would even say collaborate with the different faith communities. I have a guy friend who he's like, heck nah, I ain't going to no church. He's in his he's a young Black professional in his 40s, early 40s. And he has this perception of the church. He's just like, one, it goes on all day. He's like, get the message, let me go on about my business. Like you have to think about what are the various ways that people experience the divine and in community, and how to reach the different perspectives of people. And I think it's worth connecting with Black men and discussing, like, well, what is the disconnect? What is the disconnect? And I've even heard some conversations where folks say, listen, if you have the pastor, I'm not submitting to no man. Okay, so I don't know if it's the ego thing or what have you, where it's like somebody has to be the chief. Everybody got to be a chief, and is that why there are so many churches everywhere? Because all the men got to be the chief. I don't know, but these are some of the things that I've heard from some of my guy peers, and I think it's worth talking to them. He also mentioned, like, some of the spiritual activities. He says, for me, when I connect to spirit, it's when I'm out fishing. It's when I'm out fishing and I'm in silence and I'm reflecting on God. Well, are there activities geared towards how men connect to the divine in our faith communities? Are we thinking outside the box? That might be a link to bring folks in.
Sister Danielle, I listened to you, and some of the things you have said really brought my memory back to when I was a teenager, because I was brought up in a church. And you mentioned about sex education, you mentioned about identity, you mentioned about socializing in the church. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of the parents, when I was growing up, they were uneducated. I'll give you an example. When in my church, we had a sex education class. And this was at a time when talking about sex was taboo. And I happened to go home to my mother after church. And I said, Mom, have you ever had a sexual orgasm? And she looked at me, she said, what is that? And she said, boy, what you done brought in this house now? I said, Mom, I just want to share something with you that I heard at church. She said, oh my God, now we're in more trouble. And I was very outspoken because, amongst the young people when I was growing up, I was the one that was very bold. I wasn't scared of nothing. I would say was and ask you anything and say whatever was on my mind. And when the leader of the Young People's Institute in my church, and when because so many young ladies were coming up pregnant, and I got up and I spoke up for them young ladies. I said, listen, I think you ought to stop jumping on the young ladies because and I lost one of my best male friends because of this. I said, listen, y'all coming down all these young ladies. I said, but what about the young men?
Yes.
Y'all ain't saying nothing to them. And I said, listen, y'all don't ostracize this young lady. Now she got to sit in the back of the church. She got to sit with the mothers. She can't talk to the young people. But the deacons wouldn't grab Johnny and pat him on his back. He said, now listen, son, don't do that no more. But he wasn't. They didn't do nothing to him.
That's correct.
And they looked at me and told me to shut up, mind my business.
Well,
So
Dr. Johnson, Yeah,
Yeah.
education must. I'm gonna turn it over to you, Pastor Payne, because I know you want to come in. See, it's some things that we have, like drugs. That should be sex education, drug abuse, drug use. All these things should be discussed. If we don't discuss these things in the church, guess what? The church, the streets will teach our kids, and the streets are teaching our kids what it said, how to respect a woman. These things are supposed to be discussed in the church. A lot of our black boys, they grow up in homes that don't have men that are role models. They don't have fathers. And a lot of that abuse, they see this one man coming in, he's abusing the mama. He see this man coming in. So they grow up with that trauma in them, along with the other trauma that's been inherited through slavery. So now when they grow up, they start violating women. So these hard subjects of racism has got to be discussed in the church, because a lot of times pastors from the streets in or from the outside in, they think all we want to do is collect money. See, the church started in a house. It was started in the beginning when Paul establishes the churches. It was called sales house churches. So it started in the house, and it started with the family. Even through slavery, families worship together. Now we've moved away from that, and we've relied on the world to teach our kids for various reasons. Danielle, sometimes the parents work. But like I said, I go back to one of my points. A church should never only open its doors on Sunday. The church doors should be opened up for school, for after school programs, for tutoring, for dance programs, for trades, to talk to our young people about things that are troubling them. That is the church's responsibility. And that's one of the first things on the Black Agenda's list. It's for the urban churches to come together. I don't care if you got 2 members, I got 15 members. You got 12, I got 25. The doors of the church should be open. At you, Dr. Payne.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. The Bible said, teach all things. That's some of the things we do not teach. But when the Bible said teach all things, it means just that, teach all things. We got to teach people about sex. We got to teach people about drugs. We got to teach them all things, because if we don't teach them, the world will teach them, and the world will teach them wrong. But also stop and think. And I look at it this is, we don't teach our people, someone else will train them, and they're going to train them the wrong way. I'd rather that we teach them the right way, what need to be said, what need to be done, so that they learn. So it's no mistakes. If you don't teach a person, if they make a mistake, it's not their fault, because you never taught them. We have to start working with our children. That's why I said we got to go into the streets. We have to go into the streets, start talking to our children. If you notice, the police department, the government, they come to the church. When something goes wrong, the first place they run to is the church, because they believe that church had power. In the early 60s, the 50s, what they did, they used the churches. When they have a meeting to get together, even during slavery, they went to the church. That's why you get all the religious song and everything. The church, they worked together, and we went out, worked as one. We have to bring that back together again, just like that. And as far as like young ladies getting pregnant and everything, if you don't tell them the truth, if a young man rub against you, you're going to get pregnant. No, it wasn't like that. That's what they taught us, different things like that. But they really didn't teach us what they're supposed to. That's why young ladies got pregnant. But if you would tell them, don't do this, you're supposed to be like this, abstain. But how can they abstain and they see you doing wrong?
Amen.
Absolutely. And a lot of things, the truth of the matter is that, come on, let's just be real. We can tell sometimes those young ladies and young boys that are having sex in our church.
Yes.
We can tell.
Amen.
We can tell. We want to close our eyes to it and imagine it's not happening. But you know. And you sometimes know even more, because some of those young men get outside girls pregnant, not even church girls. But yet we don't even teach some type of contraceptive in the church, because you know why? All we say is just say no. Just say no. And we know they're saying yes. Why should they say no? Although your body is a temple of God. Well, I'm not doing anything. You're a 48-year-old man. You're a 60-year-old woman. Naturally, you're not doing anything. Our young people, We don't teach them how the body regulates. We don't teach them how if you're in a position that your body is going to start responding. I don't care what your mind say, your body is going to start responding, so we don't teach them any of those things. We just say no, and say no to drugs. How you going to say no to drugs and there's a smoke shop right in front of your school and all your friends are going in the smoke shop and you want to be with your friends? We've got to be able to have the conversations, but they must be safe places. See, some of our churches are not safe places, so we can't have that conversation. Danielle, at you. I think you want to come in.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what you're saying. And here's another thing is, how do you say no to drugs when the kid is whether being bullied or maybe experiencing death and loss in the family and navigating things, and they just want to numb out? They just want to tune out. How do you just say no, but then not provide what the alternative is for how to deal with it? So I think that some of the things we got to flesh out is what the alternatives are for dealing with some of the challenges that young folks deal with. And then I was going to add, before that, you were talking about, sorry, I was traveling all day yesterday, so I'm a little airy today. But
that's okay.
We're talking about the youth and the hormones. I was told, because I was like, listen, y'all telling us not to have sex, but the body, the biology, my body is saying do it. What
Amen.
do I do? Right? What do I do? I was told run.
Every day, amen.
So then it's like, I think we just have to be, just to destigmatize that, to say, like, when young folks are going through their hormones and like when you have to use the bathroom, you gotta go. You know what I'm saying? But now we have self-control. And so, but I agree with what you're saying. Listen, they're human. They might give in one day. Mm-hmm. But if they give in, they still need the education. If you're gonna do it, make sure you use protection, right? Because you don't want these STDs that are going around. And someone said, well, if the adults are doing it, aren't you hearing all these reports about the STDs going crazy in elderly populations? Right? That's the main focus in church.
That's
right?
where the freaks are.
So there has to be, and when you're saying creating a safe space, we got to be able to have these conversations and then not to judge, and also to acknowledge the realities that folks are facing and offer the alternatives. I was also going to add the music. I grew up in the I grew up in the 90s. And now that I'm an adult and I'm working on gender justice, I'm reflecting back at all the messages in the songs. I'm from California. So, you had Dr. Dre. It ain't no fun if your homies can't have none. Running trains, right? He's talking about running trains. And I thought about the how rape culture is so persistent. So we also got to talk to our kids about it. When we talking about self-control, if someone says no, you respect their no. You don't touch people when they don't want to be touched. We also have to teach about consent, because this also leads into the abuse that happens. And then, in working in faith communities, some of the things that has come up, we also got to teach married couples about consent too. That has come up in our trainings where people say, "What? Rape can't happen in a marriage."
Yes, it can.
Oh, yes, it can.
Yeah.
Yes, it can. So, we got to get real. We got to have these conversations, and in a way that's not judgmental, but in a way of like, let's not harm each other. Let's go towards the goal of not harming each other. And here's some tools to do it. Another thing is, when we start to get judgy about folks, then they're gonna shut. They're gonna pull back, and they're not gonna share what's really going on. So that
they're gonna go underground
and help out.
Yeah,
or underground.
Because see, the truth of the matter, Danielle, The truth of the matter, Danielle, is that a lot of us fell into the same traps that young people are falling into. Even though it was a different time and it was a different space. If you listen to some of our testimonies, guess what? A lot of us was out there being very promiscuous as well. A lot of us did some things that our young people are doing at a higher level now. And if we tell them our testimonies instead of trying to be so holy than thou, then maybe that can draw them and show them what the power of God is about. I want to let you go, Pastor West, but I want to just say this as well, is that the church must be confidential and it must be a safe space and it cannot be judgmental because these young people are too used to us, the church, judging them. Because guess what? How they dress, how they talk, how they tattoo their body, guess what? It's not like out. It's not like us. You know, we discriminate. Oh, he's got a tattoo on it. We discriminate. She got 3 holes in her ears. We've got to move away from that. Back at you, Dr. Payne.
I was going to say what she said. I love everything that you said. What the church have to do is not just open on Sundays, but give them something to do. Have meetings. We can get together. The group. Idle mind is a devil's workshop. If we don't give them something to do and work with them, they're going to go out with their friends. They're going to become promiscuous. All these things happen. But if we get an atmosphere, we could go bowling. We can do different things together. Have meetings. Go to movies. But we do it, Christians, a group of us get together and we got to show examples and show them that you can have fun. You don't have to have sex. You can go to the movie. You could do all these different things and keep them busy. We don't have nothing to keep them busy. You just come to church, sit down and shut up. Don't say nothing. You can't participate. You don't do anything for them. Of course, they're not going to stay with you. But it's up to us to do something with them, encourage them. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'm going to let you come in, Dr. Johnson. But I want to tell you, my grandmother used to say, I want you to marry a church boy. The church boys was just as bad as the street boys. Back at you, Dr. Johnson.
Amen.
Dr. Johnson, your comments.
Well, I'm trying to be politically correct and Christ correct, so I'm going to just say this.
That's okay. We're not politically correct on this urban radio station on War Cry. We tell it the way it is because we want to make a difference in people's lives. We say the things that you're thinking on War Cry. Back at you, Dr. Johnson.
Well, we need to first get a reality check with all of us. Let's remember who we were when we were younger and what we learned and what we didn't learn when we were younger. And that's also applied to what's going on with the people today. They're just like us. They were inquisitive. They wanted to know. A lot of them didn't understand. They didn't know who to talk to. And a lot of them would approach a person that was older than them, but with a caution, because they didn't want to feel rejected. They didn't want to be looked upon as being less than they are. They didn't want to be ridiculed. So we must come back to a reality check and remember, we are all human. Young, middle-aged, old, we're all human. And we have gone through
Dr. Johnson, I must cut in. Dr. Johnson, let me come in with a question, Dr. Johnson. What we're facing today is that we're facing so many of our Black men that are incarcerated and they're coming out, and because they were incarcerated for long periods of time and did not enjoy their childhood or their young adulthood, that when they come back out, they're still wearing their pants all the way down to the ground. They're still wearing their hats in the back. They're trying to capture a portion of their lives that are lost. So when our young boys see that, they're just imitating sometimes what they see in our urban areas by men who are returning back. I don't want to say returning back to society, by returning citizens. That's what we're dealing with in the urban areas. Back at you, Dr. Johnson.
Unfortunately, with the prison population, especially among men of color, when we went to jail in their youth and then get out when they were almost senior citizens, they stopped growing intellectually, spiritually, and culturally. They are still children in their thinking, and they're trying to catch up on something that has passed them by. See, when you cage a human being for as long as 15, 20 years, or even 25 years. You have caged a human being who has stopped growing. Their mentality, the sociological aspects of their well being, the humanistic feelings and development have all come to a stop. You are an animal in your thinking and you're very immature in your thinking. You are an adult in your physical makeup, but you're a child in your mental makeup. Because being caged, it's like you cage an
Now,
animal.
Dr. Johnson, I need to come into you, Dr. Johnson, again. And when you take this population of men and return them to our urban communities without jobs, without education, without means to support their children, what happens to that man? That black man, when he comes out and he has to check the box that that I have felonies, that I've been in jail for 15 years. What happens to that black man, Dr.
He,
Johnson?
that man, like you were speaking about, unfortunately, and it hurts me to say this, but he is lost. He has to start learning all over again. And he has to go to a place where he feels comfortable, where he can learn all over again. Because you're looking at a man who is still a boy. And then you want to take this man and put him back into the urban population, and you expect for him to be responsible with man duties, but he is still a child is thinking. You're looking at a man who has never learned responsibility. He doesn't even know how to be a man. All that has to be
Let's stop right there.
redone.
Stop right there, Dr. Johnson. Dr. Payne, you want to come in on this?
Yes, yes. What happened is now with the police department, well, with clergy council, guard squads, and different ones now, what we're trying to do is get the brothers that's coming out of jail, try to get them jobs and try to work with them and try to have like classes for them. They got things out there now. We're trying to work with people like that to make a better society because they paid their debt, they paid society. Now they're a free man. Yes, they still have a record, but it's up to us. Even the churches, you can bring young men like that have that criminal background. Start working with them, and there's programs out there to help them. That's what we got to encourage our people. When you got programs out there, take them to that
So
program.
Dr.
Help the
Payne,
young men.
Pastor Payne, let me come in. Let me come in. So you're saying that should be on the church's agenda is to help the returning citizens that's
Yes,
coming back from being incarcerated to help them in the community to develop. Is that what you're saying, Dr. Payne?
yes, definitely. Not only that, but those young men, those men that just coming out of jail, they can help the other young men before they get to jail. You can prevent that because they can tell them what not to do, what happened to them. They can work with the young people. And you see a person going wrong. If I know that I done wrong and it happened to me, I can tell the next young man, hey, don't do that because this is going to be the consequences. You can start training them and helping them. We can still use them. Yes, they've been incarcerated. Yes, they've been did their time, but we still can use them. God forgive them. If God can forgive them, we can forgive them and use them. And they could bring more
Okay.
people.
Okay, at you, Danielle. I spoke about the returning citizens of our men that was incarcerated. Now I want you to address the returning citizens of our women, because we have a lot of black women now that are going to jail in alarming rates, just as our black young people. And when they come back, some of them are even having their babies in jail, and the babies are being with them and taken apart, so they don't even have that mothering instinct. Now they come back into society, and guess what? Because of where they are, a lot of them have been put in isolation, put in those holding areas. They got mental disorders, and they're coming back in the community. What can you speak of from the woman's perspective?
Yeah, well, I think it's important, and I thank you for bringing that up because we often talk about the men who are incarcerated. And as you said, more and more Black women are getting incarcerated. And in the field of gender justice that I work in, we also observe the molestation, sexual assault, domestic violence to prison pipeline that also exists. There are also survivors who are incarcerated and being further victimized. So that's also a challenge in our community. And in addition to all the other reasons why people end up incarcerated. But I think it's important to lift up the women and how they are impacted and come up with strategies for that. And I think whether we're talking about formerly incarcerated individuals or even talking about youth, the strategies that our faith communities come up with should be developed by those who are closest to the pain, because they're going to have a deeper level of understanding than those of us who haven't had those experiences about what is actually needed, so that a collaboration can take place, so that more folks can be assisted. And I also wanted to add on, I'm a child of the Black church. I practice African spirituality now, but as I've told you, Elder Montgomery, I still believe in the Black church. I'll always be connected to the Black church. It's also to know that other faith communities are having these conversations at the same time, whether it's Muslim, whether it's African traditional, or whatever other Black faith communities that are not Christian are also having these conversations, trying to figure out how can we stand in the gap for our people. Because as Malcolm X said, the system doesn't care whether you Baptist, you Muslim, whether you practice African spirituality, you Black at the same time.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
And
Amen.
yeah, and so
Now, Danielle, I think this is a good opening for you to tell us about some of the services you offer to the Black church with Connect Faith. I
yes.
think open that up for us.
Yes. I was just going to say really quick, it's important to also engage with the folks of other traditions to see what strategies they're doing, what they're, because you may work with the youth on the street that's like, well, I don't connect to Christianity, but if you got a good relationship with that Muslim, the imam over there, the most important thing is getting that kid to something so that they can get off the streets. If they say, I'm not here for the church, I'm of another tradition, you can still get them there. So it's a multi-pronged strategy. So in terms of the services that we provide to the Black church, at Connect Faith, we work with faith communities. As I said, you got to work with those who are closest in it to actually develop the strategy. So we work with faith leaders, Black church faith leaders, to develop the strategies for addressing domestic violence in the Black church. And so we provide trainings that around faith and DV. So I have an MDiv at Union Theological Seminary. I love theology. I've studied biblical theology. And so in our trainings, what we do is we look at the particular tradition. If it's the Black church, for example, we're going to look at in the training with Black faith leaders, what are the resources within the Black Christian tradition that help to promote healthy, mutual, respectful, and loving relationships? So we pull those theological nuggets out because that's the toolkit for when Pastor Payne was talking about we have to teach these things. These are the things that we're going to teach. Okay, now let's look at what are the theologies and the teachings that either people warp or are misunderstood, or that rub survivors of violence a particular way, and these things that might cause harm. Let's know what those are so we know how to address it. So we have those type of theological discussions, which it allows for faith, for pastors, for ministry leaders to be able to speak biblically and Christ-centered on addressing domestic violence, on addressing
Now
gender.
tell us real quick how we can get in contact with you, and all our listeners could get in contact with you.
Yes. Oh, and sorry. So we also provide those trainings. We help organize if you're trying to do events at your church, sermon support, programmatic support. If you're trying to start a domestic violence ministry, we assist with that as well. And we also train. If you just want your staff trained, we can train your staff. You want your congregation trained, we can do that too. So you can reach me at D Williams at connectnyc.org. connect.org. That's the best way to reach me.
Say it again. Say it again.
So D Williams at connectnyc.org.
And for those listeners, if you did not get that, we will put that on our website. Okay, we're getting ready. We've had a great conversation, but we're going to get ready and close now. And we're going to give that what we do every time on War Cry, broadcasting all the way from New York City. We want to leave our listeners with one word and one thing that you would put on the Black agenda, because we are here to do the Black agenda. One word that we want to leave our audience with, and one thing that you think that needs to be on top of the Black agenda. Dr. Gregory Johnson.
Black unity.
Black unity. And that should be on the top of the Black agenda as well. Okay, Dr. Payne.
United.
United. That
Yes.
should be at the top of the Black agenda as well. And Danielle.
Healing, which will contribute to the unity. I'm sorry, one word, but healing.
Healing. Go ahead, which would contribute to the unity. So you feel that the reaction of some of our people is because we are still being hurt and traumatized in a lot of areas, Danielle?
I think it's
Yes, we
distrust.
are.
And distrust.
Oh, wow. We got to continue this conversation. This is War Cry broadcasting all the way from New York City. Join us next week at 11 a.m. We are not politically correct, but we are Christ correct. We're an urban radio station. You can hit us up on our Facebook page, War Cry for Our Children, or on our website, War Cry for Our Children, or guess what? Send us an email at warcry.gmail.com. Get a shirt that says, I'm praying for our children. Do an act of kindness. This is War Cry. And whether you know it or not, we're in a war. We're in a war. Thank you. Thank you to everyone that joined us. Thank you to everyone. This is War Cry, and it's time for action.
The Lord is my shepherd. He goes before me. Defender behind me. I won't fear. Filled with anointing, my cup's overflowing. No weapon can harm me. I won't fear. Not alone, no. He's my comfort, always holds me close. He always guides me through mountains and valleys. His joy is refreshing, restores my soul. Mercy and goodness give me assurance that I'll see His glory lift your voice, say, He's my comfort. He's my comfort. Always holds me close. Oh, hallelujah. I am not alone. No, no. He's my comfort. Always holds me close. Your spirit lives within me, so I will walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory. Your spirit lives within me, so I will walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory. Your spirit lives within me, so I will walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory. Your spirit lives within me, so I will walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory, my victory, my victory, my victory, my victory. I win because you're my victory, my victory.